Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. This is not an election year. I repeat, this is not an election year. I see you. You're cheering. You're applauding. But if you happen to enjoy gabbing about politics as I do, and my guest does, you might want to stay tuned. My guest today is State Representative Gerald Watkins, Democrat of Paducah. Gerald Watkins doesn't just practice politics, he preaches politics. He's a professor of political science here at the college for 27 years. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Barry Craig. It's always fun to be on the Barry Craig Show, the most highly watched show in Western Kentucky.
Yes.
According to the Nielsen ratings.
It's getting deep here. You have come back from the legislature. You don't seem to be physically scarred from the political wars.
Well, I'm glad to be home after 3 months in Frankfort. It's an honor to serve. You have a voice, you have a vote, and I try to represent the people of the 3rd District and the entire Commonwealth as best I can to try to do what they want me to do, and my conscience I feel like is the right thing. To move Kentucky forward, job creation, educational opportunities, and safety of our citizenry, that's my high priorities. But it was a stressful session, I will say that. This was my 5th session.
And so I wanted to ask you about that. I don't see any physical damage to you, but I'm wondering if you suffer from
post-traumatic
stress. It's called PLBSD. That's called post-legislative BS disorder.
I think I suffer from that.
I understand it's chronic in state legislatures than in Washington.
More chronic in Washington.
Probably is so.
Yeah, we had, I think I was told 798 bills introduced this session, of which approximately 190 went to the governor's desk for signature or veto, and he vetoed 4 and we overrode all 4 of them. This is an all-time record for a 30-day session as far as bills passed. I will say we earned every penny of our money. We were so busy. Normally, you serve on 3 committees, and normally each committee meets 1 time a week during the session. All my committees, and I guess all the committees, met at least twice a week and sometimes 3 times a week. Normally we'd be on the floor till maybe 5:30 or 6. There's always receptions in the evening. Many times we were on the floor till 6:30, 8:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12 midnight. It was a busy session. We were cranking out the bills.
Now, for the balance of the program, I would like for you to remove your Democratic Party legislator hat and put on your political science hat and do what we've always enjoyed doing, and that's speculating and gossiping about politics, who's hot, who's not, who's in, who's out. I thought, with your permission, we would start with the governor's race. And folks, I know that's 2019, but in Kentucky, we always talk about the governor's race, don't we, Gerald?
We do, and that's always fun. And immediately after the last election, we start speculating on who's going to run the next time around. It's kind of like the presidency.
Absolutely.
So that's the big prize in Kentucky. All
indeed.
Aspiring young politicians in Kentucky want to be governor of Kentucky. So,
and we've talked about this many times. If I were a politician, I couldn't get elected dog catcher, but if I did run, I'd rather be a congressman or a U.S. senator than governor.
I would too. There's never enough money in Frankfort, and I would, I'm like you. I'd rather serve in the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate rather than serve as governor.
But historically, the grand prize is the governorship.
Yeah, everyone wants to be governor.
So I have made up a list with your help, and we're going to do this alphabetically. Let's look at the Democrats first. These are the contenders so far. Rocky Atkins, your colleague, State Representative Rocky Atkins, the gentleman from Elliott County, Kentucky. So,
Minority leader.
Minority leader. As a dispassionate observer, as a political scientist, objectively, let's look at the pros and cons of a Rocky Atkins candidacy.
Well, there was a survey out a couple of weeks ago, and he was leading with 32%.
I thought that was fascinating.
I do too. And Rocky is one of the best speakers in the state. Goodness,
I've heard
he
him.
is
He
an
is good.
accomplished public speaker. He can move you from tears to laughter, and you know, he's just an incredible public speaker. He's a great human being. He's a perfect gentleman. He works hard. He's moderate. He's very reasonable, and on the issues, his views are like a lot of Kentuckians, Western Kentuckians, Eastern Kentuckians, and his values are, and so he would, I really think, would probably be the strongest candidate statewide for the Democratic Party nomination.
What about name recognition?
He needs stronger name recognition. Although he's been in the legislature for 31 years, he is well known. I don't know.
But would he be well known beyond Frankfort?
That's, yeah. But he can raise money to become well known. He raised about $800,000 for re-election of the state house this last year, and you know that's incredible. He works for, or has worked for, a coal company for many years, and he was a basketball coach. His dad was a basketball coach. He started point guard for Moorhead when they went to the NCAA tournament. He's an athlete, he's charming, he's talented, and he would be a very strong candidate for governor. I know that he's thinking about it, but he may decide at some point that maybe in 2019 is the time to pull the trigger while he's riding high and has an opportunity to perhaps win.
Now, we'll come back and do this later, so I'm going to ask you the question. In your opinion, will he or won't he?
That's a good question. I think he would like to, but there are a lot of considerations involved in making that decision. His family, can he raise enough money? You know, Governor Beshear raised $13.1 million. It takes a lot of money to get elected governor or statewide office, period. And I do think that he has the ambition. But you know, to attest to his popularity, you've got to be able to appeal to conservatives too, and Republicans in Kentucky. And he's one of the few candidates who can come and speak to the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce, probably 400 people there, and he got a standing ovation. So I think Rocky would be a very strong candidate. He's thought about it before, decided to wait. But I think if he's going to, probably 2019 would be the best time for him to go for it.
All right. Andy Beshear, who is, of course, the Attorney General, like Steve Beshear. Does he want to be like Steve Beshear and run for governor?
He does. He's, last time I talked to him about it, he was undecided. He'll either seek re-election as Attorney General in 2019, or he'll run for governor, one or the other. Probably assess his chances and see what it looks like. He does have great name recognition. His father was very popular.
He was.
Two-term governor. And Andy's a very likable young man. He's very intelligent. He's a hard worker. And he's not afraid to stand up and speak up. And I think he would be a very strong candidate also, very strong candidate. He and Rocky probably would be the two strongest candidates in the Democratic field. But Andy Beshear.
It happens a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's certainly looking at it. If his chances look good in 2019, I anticipate that he would run for governor rather than Attorney General. And I think 2019 may wind up being an open year, a good year for people on both sides of the aisle, so I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him run for governor in 2019.
So, will he or won't he?
I think he will.
Okay. Alison Lundergan Grimes, Secretary of State.
Alison is ambitious, and she really has no choice but to run for governor or something different next time. Or she'll be two-termed out as Secretary of State. Now, she could be chosen to be someone's lieutenant governor running mate. She could run for Congress. She could run for a different statewide constitutional office. But if she wants to be governor, probably 2019 is as good as it's going to get for her. She was the rising star in the Democratic Party, but Senator Mitch McConnell defeated her so soundly, what was it, 17 points, that
something like that.
It's hard to recover from that kind of shellacking. And he branded her to give her an image that she really doesn't need to be elected governor of Kentucky. So Alison, I love Alison, but she would have, I think, a difficult time.
And the fact, too, Gerald, you know, politics can be a pretty rough business.
It is.
If you lose, it's really hard to come back from a loss that devastating.
It is. More times than not, you just lose by a larger margin the next time around. And so I think she has a future. I'm just not sure if the governor's race is where she ought to head in 2019, but she'll have to go somewhere else besides where she's at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, will she or won't she?
I don't think she will.
Okay. All right. Adam Edlin.
Adam Edlin wants to be governor. He regrets not running for governor in 2015. And he has launched the New Kentucky project to give him a different vehicle, although he keeps saying it's not to take the place of the Democratic Party. Because the Democrats didn't fare too well in the last two statewide elections, that he was looking for maybe perhaps a different vehicle where he wouldn't have to ride the Democratic Party label. But today, it's, you know, the climate's changed, and it's not such a negative to be a Democrat. In fact, it could probably be argued it's a very positive thing at this point.
Wouldn't you say he was defeated? That was probably the biggest surprise on election night in 2015, that he was defeated.
Absolutely. He was a rising star like Alison in the Democratic Party. He's very intelligent. He's a great public speaker.
Yes,
he used to be a Republican years ago.
Yeah.
And everybody thought he would go on to higher office and eventually be governor. But he was defeated by about 10 points by someone who didn't have strong name recognition or a strong state record to run on. So that was really, I think people were still kind of in shock over that defeat. So, you know, that really, I mean, one defeat doesn't knock you out completely, but how soundly he was defeated by someone who didn't have strong name recognition or a strong record, I think, though he rides pretty good, I think this last poll he had like 26%, something like that. He would be a strong contender. But I'm not so sure that he would be the strongest contender.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to Grimes, and I do know my ABCs. I just got a little bit out of order here. Would you say, though, the fact that Grimes was reelected maybe takes some of the sting out of that Senate loss?
I think so. It proves that she can win, and she's a strong campaigner, and she does have strong support. I think she should run for something, not give up. She could, again, become a lieutenant governor running mate for someone. It would be a very attractive position for her. And or she could run for one of the other statewide constitutional offices. I think there are 7 of them, and probably win. Any one of them, most likely.
Remember back in the day when Francis Jones Mills and Drex Davis used to swap state treasurer and secretary of state? They would just sit and move across the hall from each other, I guess.
They did that for about 30 years.
They did. And I think they both won because people saw their names. They were out there.
Yeah, they had strong name recognition and were likable people.
Yeah,
and, they won. So I think she would be in the same position. She could win. You know, if Andy Beshear runs for governor, she could run for attorney general.
Yeah. Ray Jones.
Ray Jones is, I think, his stock is rising among the public of Kentucky. He is a very articulate, attractive, very wealthy attorney from Pikeville, eastern Kentucky.
Paul Patton country.
Yes, he is, and he's the Senate minority leader. So they have a lot of confidence in him, and I do too, and he's just a very intelligent, moderate conservative Democrat who would have appeal statewide. And he only had 13% in that same poll, but I think that's really lack of name recognition because Ray's been in the Senate for, probably 12, 14 years, but He hadn't gotten around the state like some of the other candidates have. He's never ran for statewide office. But I think he could raise some money, and he's got money, so he could overcome the name recognition deficit. But I think, he would be somebody to look at because Ray is, I think he's a rising star. He's got all the qualities, I believe, to get elected to statewide office.
So will he or won't he?
I think he'll be someone's running mate. I don't know if he'll run for governor. I guess he, like all the rest of them, they're kind of looking to see who's going to get in it before they make up their mind. But Ray would run strong. But if you had a Rocky or an Andy Beshear in there, I think it'd be difficult for Ray at this point. So I think he would probably be a very attractive lieutenant governor running mate for one of them.
You and I have talked about this many times about, well, in life, timing is everything. But in politics, we've talked about this. Is it a good idea, if you're going to do this, to get in and do it quickly to discourage others from running?
Absolutely, because it's like any sport or activity. Who's your competition? You size them up and you think, can I beat this person? What would it take? How much, in this case, how much money am I going to have to raise to get my name out there, and how popular are my opponents? And I think if you're going to run for anything, that's always been my philosophy, you need to be the first one out. Get out of the gate early because it will discourage other people from running. You don't want to be the last one out if you're serious about it.
So when could we reasonably expect somebody to actually toss a hat in the ring on this?
Well, I think they need to be going around the state right now and talking about issues that affect the entire state without announcing that they're a candidate for governor at this point. It's too premature for that. But I think, that the primary will be May of 2019. Mm-hmm. I think by spring of 2018, they need to be out there.
So about a year from today, we should expect some official candidates. Or when is the actual day that you can file for governor?
Well, it's been January 31st, and
so that would be January 31st of 2019 would be the deadline for filing.
Right.
When is the day before that? In other words, if I wanted to run for governor of Kentucky, when's the earliest I could do that?
Oh, okay. I think the earliest you can actually file is that November.
Okay.
But you want to announce earlier than that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, on the Republican side, I'm hearing rumors that Congressman James Comer may take on Matt Bevin in the Republican primary. Don't see that too often. You don't see somebody going after an incumbent. Are you hearing those same rumors?
I am, but I would say this first and then move into that. I was told by someone who's very active in Jefferson County politics and has been for a long time, who holds public office and has for almost 30 years, that the Republicans in Jefferson County were all telling him that Governor Bevin was not going to seek re-election, that he was going to run for higher offices, that his ultimate goal, he wants to run for president of the United States. So if that is true, it's just secondhand to me, then he would not seek re-election in 2019. The race would be wide open. But even if he does seek re-election, Congressman James Comer always wanted to be governor. He ran very strong as agriculture secretary twice. And if not for the attack orchestrated by Hal Heiner, he would be the governor of Kentucky right now.
Lost by 83 votes.
83 votes. And when I see the congressman, he looks at me and shakes his head and says, 83 lousy votes. 83 lousy votes. So I think he would like, if we could use the word revenge or redemption, might be a better word.
Well, in that primary, if memory serves, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it was mostly Heiner that was hammering on Comer, not as much Bevin, right? Right.
Hal Heiner attacked Comer with some very negative accusations that we all know caused his loss. And because Heiner orchestrated and everyone knew it, people don't like someone who goes to the gutter. So he was out.
Right.
And the only one left was Matt Bevin. And Matt Bevin was smart. He was running commercials as the conciliator.
Oh, yeah.
And above the fray. And it paid off for him, and that's how he won the Republican Party nomination. But then he turned around and appointed Hal Heiner's education cabinet secretary. I don't think that it would bother Congressman Comer one single bit to take on Matt Bevin in the primary, and quite frankly, I think that he could beat him. I think he could win that. Even if Governor Bevin runs for re-election, I think Congressman Comer, he won 71% of the vote running for Congress. He raised almost $800,000 in the primary. Congressman Comer can raise money. He's a very charming person. He's a very nice person.
You mentioned this Republican from Jefferson County. Do you care to give us his name?
Well, I would rather not. He probably wouldn't want me to say that, but he's...
Well, to jump into what you just said about Heiner or Comer winning by 71%, the Democrats in the 1st District have not fielded a creditable candidate since Brian Roy. So the question is to you is, as a political scientist, has the 1st District realigned Republican permanently?
Well, it appears so. I don't think it has permanently. We'll see after 2018 or 2020 if Congressman Comer does in fact run for governor in 2019, and I think he probably will, because if you look on the Republican side, there's really no one there. The lieutenant governor, and no disrespect, man, is not going to be a strong candidate to fill that nomination spot. And I'm not really sure who else really is even interested in it on the Republican side. So I think 1st District Congressman James Comer would be the strongest Republican for the nomination. That being said, with an open seat in 2018, or probably if he's going to run for governor, he needs to be home so he can run in the primary, which will be that following May. He doesn't need to be in Washington, D.C. and try to have to campaign from long distance. That wouldn't work out very well. If a Republican wins in 2018, then I will agree that this 1st District has permanently realigned itself from the Democratic, being the Gibraltar of
Gibraltar democracy for years. Absolutely.
The Democratic Party to the Republican Party. I would like to think that a conservative Democrat with good name recognition and a good track record in an open seat on an open race would have a very good chance of winning that race. But after the next opening, when I already calling him Governor, Congressman Comer vacates, then if that be the case, then the 1st Districts, the Democrats may as well forget about ever running a candidate.
Well, of course, you go back to when Comer won, Whitfield had stepped down, so I guess you could call it an open seat. I was also surprised somewhat. Whitfield's heir apparent, his anointed one, was Michael Pape. And Comer wasted Pape.
Oh, just absolutely.
Did that surprise you that he beat him that badly?
It did, Barry. I thought it would be. I thought James Comer would win, but I thought it would be pretty close. Michael Pape has been all over this district for 21 years. Mm-hmm. That he worked for the congressman.
He was based in Hopkinsville.
Yeah, he was from Hopkinsville, also at Whitfield's home, and he's a very good public speaker, and he's very intelligent, and he raised enough money, but he didn't run a very good campaign. It was a little bit extreme, and some of the commercials made him appear to be extreme. And James Comer is just strong. But I was surprised that it wasn't any closer, and we've talked about this before, but it just goes to show that you can't transfer your popularity.
Exactly.
Governor Carroll tried to do it. So many different people tried it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Tried to do it over the years. No matter how popular you may be as an elected official or politician, you just can't, all of the time, you can't transfer that popularity to another candidate.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to do in the end result is for them to just stay out of it.
Yeah. Well, you've heard the expression, I will endorse you unless you think it hurts you, then I won't help or hurt, that thing.
Yeah, some elected officials say, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I can help you or hurt you, whatever you want. I can endorse you or not.
And endorsements cut both ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Getting back to those congressional races. Well, let me back up. Yeah, congressional races. If memory serves, when Brian Roy ran for Congress in 2000, he announced his candidacy about mid-1999. But again, going back to this first district situation, I have not heard a single Democrat in this district who is interested in running. Now, Dorsey Ridley's name surfaced, but went nowhere. I think you maybe thought about it.
Senator Dorsey Ridley was seriously considering it, and then changed his mind at the last minute after he cleaned everybody out of the race. But he said that at this point he's running for re-election in the state senate in 2018. Would like to serve one more term and then retire. But under no circumstances would he be interested in running for Congress. As far as myself goes, I was interested in it. Who wouldn't want to go to Washington D.C.
Right.
and serve in the U.S. House? But because Dorsey Ridley had $3 million to devote to the race, I'm a poor boy. And with Congressman Comer in the race, as strong as he is, it just wasn't the right time if I were going to do something like that. If Congressman Comer were to run for governor and not seek re-election in 2018, certainly I would look at it. I wouldn't say at this point whether I would or wouldn't, but I would look at it anyway. It just depends, again, who's getting in it and can I raise enough money to mount a successful race. But I just think if it were an open seat and you didn't have a superstar in the race, a moderate conservative Democrat, I think, could win that race.
Well, if Comer decides to run for governor instead, what Republicans are out there in the first district do you think would make a run for it?
Well, there were 3 Republicans who ran in last year, and I think 2 of the 3 would run again. I think Jason Batts, who used to be one of my students here, he's the county attorney in Hickman County. I think he'd get back out there. Michael Pape would probably run again. I don't think the other gentleman, I can't remember his name, I don't think he would run again. He had, 1 or 2% of the vote. I don't know of any other Republicans that would be looking at it at this point.
Any of the Democrats you're hearing, even?
At this point, with Dorsey Ridley out, no. There was a long list of probably 8 or 10 Democrats that were looking at it in 2016, but in the end, none of them ran. And with an open seat, it's an opportunity, and some of those have moved on, like John Tilley. He's the Justice Cabinet Secretary now. It's his dream job. He loves that. He would have been a strong Democrat. He's from Hopkinsville. Mm-hmm. He was the Judiciary Committee Chairman. I thought he would have been a very strong candidate for Congress, but he loves serving as Justice Cabinet Secretary. That's his dream job, mm-hmm. and he's doing a great job at it in the Bevin administration. So he wouldn't. People who've looked at it in the past had decided to do something different or not consider that anymore. So I think on the Democratic side, it's at this point there's no one looking at it. So it's wide open. And
at this point, we're out of time. We've got to do this again soon.
Yeah, this is fun. I love being on the Barry Craig Show.
And we enjoy having you. I'm Barry Craig. My guest today was Gerald Watkins. We will see you next time. Thank you.